right, welcome back to the Geek Branch podcast. I'm your host, of course, Tim. These are my co-hosts, Dane and Cussler. We're actually going to do one more episode pertaining to the cinematic movie universe. Unfortunately, we were not able to really talk with the Otaku Talk. We were short on time. As our close friends know, we only record one day out of the week. We all still have full-time jobs, so it's really hard for us to juggle to try to record more than one day out of the week, unfortunately. So I appreciate everyone. I know there's most of our viewership is actually in the Otaku Talk, but there's not a lot of topics going on that were worth really mentioning.
There's really not a lot of news for anime right now.
Yeah,
it's mid-season. Everybody's kind of got what they're going to watch. So
they know what's coming winter 2020. So really, once those winter 2020 shows come out, we can discuss how we feel about those new shows, because that will really ramp it up. So in the meantime, what we decided to talk about, because it is all the hype, and it deserves the hype, the amazingness that is The Mandalorian, we are going to go over and dive into episode 4. So with episode 4, we see what happens after The Mandalorian and the wonderful Baby Yoda do after they escape from the shootout. And so they go to a...
backwater planet in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. And so when they end up there, they end up running into a mercenary. And Mandalorian, of course, thinks that she's trying to, kill him. She thinks that he's trying to kill her because she could tell he was part of the
Bounty Hunters Guild.
Find out that that's not the case. That she's just laying low over there while he was trying to lay low. So his whole thing was since she's already here, we got to leave. Well, he was about to leave, and then this village that you see at the beginning scene where their village is being attacked by a small group of
Raiders. This is the best way of describing them. Raiders.
Alien Raiders. I don't know their race.
Tatooine, I think they were called.
Yeah, they look like bulldogs.
Yeah.
Basically space orcs.
Yeah.
They are space orcs, actually.
Neat.
So they get called, these two villagers come to his ship. They see it fly by, and so they figure out where his ship is, and they ask for his help. Funny enough, one of the actors, I noticed Jon Favreau likes to do this, is a comedian. He's been on multiple different shows. He plays as the best friend to one of the characters from The Good Place. Jason Mendoza, if you watched The Good Place, his best friend in Florida, Pillboy is his character's name. Anyway, so the heavier set guy out of the two that go ask for his help, that's the one. Anyways, they ask for his help, and so he gets the mercenary ex-Republican soldier, and they go and they help the village.
Yeah, and then awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just be honest here, right? Okay, it's Seven Samurai, or
Yeah.
I guess for Western people it would be for the Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent.
Yeah,
that would be their equivalent, but Magnificent Seven copied off of
Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
My point being is,
which is both amazing movies.
No, and it's fine because this is a story that you could tell 15,000 times.
So many people have done it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Seven Samurai, except
and this is the longest Mandalorian episode, by the way.
Yes, even though it's still kind of short.
Yeah, it's 42 minutes long.
Yeah.
Should be 2 hours long. Just kidding.
Yeah, no.
It
could have been its own movie.
Could have been.
Yeah,
It'd have been great, but
we could have filled in 5 more characters.
Oh yeah, for sure. We had the love interest on everything.
Oh, dude, it's so classic. It's such a traditional Western thing.
And Baby Yoda was just being his amazing self.
Yes.
We even got a new meme from him this week. Him sipping on the broth. It looks like he's sipping on the tea. He's the new Kermit.
It was adorable, especially because he walks out after they get into the brawl in the alley, and he's just like,
calmly,
"What are you two doing?"
Yeah.
Baby
Yoda's scared of nothing.
Yes. Oh, dude. So, look. So there's so many cool things about this episode, but let's just go to the most pressing subject. People are wondering: is this the episode
where we finally
where the show decides to go SJW on us? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And no, it is not this episode.
No, well, because Jon Favreau doesn't go that route.
Where is that coming?
You looking for your phone? That's making the alarm.
Yeah, no, it's in my bag.
I think it's in your bag.
Oh, yes, it is.
Good job.
Yep.
It's just
it's just a reminder for you, probably for work, knowing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's also like very quiet though.
Yeah. We also got headsets on, so
Yeah.
that does
sure
dampen some noise.
But yeah, so the whole thing is that people are wondering like if this is gonna be the episode where it goes super SJW, and no, it's not. Like it's actually pretty like anti SJW if you ask me, because the characters that they have for it, the mercenary is, well, actually she's not a mercenary, she's a ex-Republican shock trooper.
Yeah.
Oh my god, oh god, Tim has me saying it. Not Republican.
Republic.
Yeah, well, no. It's the alliance to restore the Republic, or the Republic Alliance.
Whatever.
But my point being is, it's just like we keep saying Republican, and
It's Republic
Yeah.
Alliance. My bad. Whatever.
Yes.
Rebel Alliance.
Yes. So she's a shock trooper. Literally, they would drop them from orbit behind enemy lines with no support and just run like 1-to-1 and just destroy the enemy's
Right.
back line and rear support. So she is like the equivalent of a heavy trooper, actually, or a clone commando is where she functionally fits in as in the Star Wars
Even though
universe.
she's not a clone.
Yeah, no, she's not a clone, but
Yeah.
she occupies the same role
Right.
as an elite shock trooper. So they get into this brawl, right? And they end up pretty even.
Yeah.
For a lack of it. She gets the jump on him. She comes down off of the top of a railing that's jutting from the roof of a building.
Yeah.
So he doesn't see her coming. He's heat tracking her prints through the alleyway to
So
figure
he
out where
knew
she
she
goes.
was nearby.
Right. The footprints immediately like just cut off. He loses track of them. And she's literally grabbed onto a pole and is dangling above his head and just drop kicks him in the chest to start the fight.
Which is awesome.
And then they start brawling. And man, does she throw down. She is not afraid to throw down with the Mandalorian. She tosses him around. He tosses her around, which a lot of people were like, oh, that makes no sense because he's wearing like functionally the equivalent of space full plate.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I guess, outside of like, the hardcore fans don't recognize that Mandalorian iron, or Beskar as it's being called now, is really, really light.
Yeah, it's really light.
Like half the weight or less than Durasteel. So realistically, he might as well just be wielding about 30 pounds of gear. And he's only about 180, 190 himself.
Yeah, he's
So-
not a large dude.
Yeah,
And
so-
she's probably in her 200s just because she's very
She's
muscular.
built.
Yeah.
Who is? God, wait 1 second.
She's a powerhouse for
Yeah,
sure.
But what is the name of the actress? Because she was the same chick from Deadpool.
Yeah, she was.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a freaking tech. I think her name is
Gina.
Yeah.
I can't. Let me look it up.
She is a freaking tank. I love her to death. She was throwing down.
Carano.
Yeah, Gina Carano. Man.
She was in Fast and Furious 6. She was in the first Deadpool where she played Angel Dust. She's been in a couple of other things.
Yeah. It was good times.
Yeah.
Good times. But yeah.
Great job.
And so I really liked her as far as that was concerned. The fight goes pretty even. It's a little bit like Marvel-y, kind of cartoony, because he does not take getting thrown around pretty well. Like he gets shocked a little bit more than I would like him to.
Right.
But at the end, they basically end up both on the ground because he fails to use his flamethrower properly. He like starts it up and then tries to bring it towards her.
Yeah.
But mostly because at this point, I would assume that he's panicking
Yeah.
because he wasn't expecting that much of a fight. But at the very end, they end up with the draw. Well, technically, he wins because they both draw their blasters at the same time and point at each other's head. But she doesn't have a helmet,
Right.
and he has.
And then Baby
Mandalorian.
Yoda shows up, and
Yeah.
then he's just like, all right, we're done.
Yeah, you guys can be peaceful.
Yeah.
But so that was great. And you go on to the next big female character in the series, who is this widow. She occupies
Very powerful, very,
yeah, well, straight up strong woman is the best way
Yeah.
of putting it. Not the strong woman, but just
not powerful as in strength, but like
just a very strong, stout,
strong-willed
Yeah.
woman. Yeah.
character. So what you get is that
Another good role model.
Yes, really good.
Yeah.
Like, really good.
Yeah.
Neither one of these characters are Mary Sue's either,
Yeah.
with the exception of the widow's ability to use a blaster. Because holy Christ.
She has, like, I want to know about her past, because clearly she's had some training.
Well, okay. So obviously this is based off the traditional Western story.
Right.
Um,
She's got a dead eye.
Yes, she does. And if you guys are familiar with this, and this is just the way that it goes, is that the lone gunman Dirty Harry or whoever you want to call
Which
him.
in this, it's the Mandalorian.
Right.
No.
Comes to this village that's being persecuted by raiders who have, like, weapons that they shouldn't have. Normally they've stolen cannons or some other type of heavy ordnance from the army, and they're using it to, bully this town into letting them control it.
Right.
The lone gunman runs in, just coming in to visit or to, get refueled or whatever he needs to do.
In this case.
Yeah, and he's not planning on staying, but he gets caught in the village's situation for whatever particular reason.
He gets attached along the way.
Yes, because there's this widow who's lost her husband, may or may not have a child. This is just the traditional trope for this.
Right.
Who is kind to him and is taking care of him. He normally staying
Right.
at her house.
And respectfully understands his way of life.
Right, because the meta text for that, where if you've done the trope or watched the genre enough, is that her husband used to be like him, a gunslinger.
That would
Right.
be your assumption.
Right. That her husband was maybe a sheriff or a gunslinger or someone who had a life close to his, so she was already sympathetic to him as a character.
Right. There was a connection.
Right. And it's also the reason why the wife tends to be pretty capable with a gun,
Right.
because her husband taught her.
Trained her.
Yeah. That's the reason why those two tropes tend to appear, that she is well armed and capable of using it, and that she understands the lone wanderer, which I guess is also what you can call this character type, very well.
Right.
So they get her in there, and she is both widow and / village leader, which normally they don't put the two together. Normally they're two separate characters, but in this case they've combined them. And she's a pretty great character all in all. But they ask like who in this village knows how to shoot when they start training them to deal with the
She's
raiders.
like the only one that raises her hand.
And we're like, okay, I can understand that, right? That
Right.
maybe you've held a blaster before.
Right,
They
right.
hand her a blaster rifle, and she
Pop, pop,
pings
pop,
that,
pop,
yeah,
pop, pop, pop.
pings
That
that
frying
target
pan?
like 15 times, not a single miss. And I'm like,
You're the most competent person here.
Yeah,
Right,
that's why you're the village leader. Now we know.
The Mandalorian isn't this accurate.
Yeah, he was impressed.
Right. I'm just like, he's been shooting this blaster since he was like 10, and you're better.
And during all this, they have a little side story to kind of going on throughout the episode where you're finding out more about his background, more about the Mandalorian lore, culture, and how he can't take his helmet off. You found out that he hasn't had his armor off in front of anyone since he put it on when he was a little kid.
Now, there is a point that we kind of glossed over, and granted, it would be brought up later. When both the Mando and I cannot remember her name,
The mercenary.
Cara Dune.
Yeah, Cara Dune is her character.
They go out to scout to see like what they're up against, and they find tracks in the dirt, and they find the tracks of an AT-ST.
A chicken walker, and it is the most terrifying thing.
Yes. Oh my
With
god.
the red eyes of death.
So they immediately come back to the village like, this isn't what you told us. We're leaving.
Now, because we can't take that thing.
That's above our pay grade by ourselves, which is why they start training the villagers to like fight.
Right, because we need like a lot of work, including
Yeah.
a very elaborate trap to take out this AT-ST. By the way, let me explain something to you. This show gets all the credit in the world for me. This is obviously to most people the weakest episode out of the ones that
Really?
we've watched. This is actually this is the weakest episode for most people.
It makes
That's
sense
the
to me,
strongest.
but I wouldn't say it's
The strongest, I think, episode 2, or 3.
Three.
No, 3, yeah.
I think 3 is still the strongest, but I think this is a good episode.
Whichever
Okay,
one has
yeah.
the Ride of the Valkyrie moment.
All
with
right,
the
Three.
3,
Three.
then 4. They're both great.
Yeah, no.
They're all great. I haven't had a complaint about a single one.
No, I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm just saying of all the
First
episodes, this is
episode was the
weakest.
weakest.
Right, in my
But it's still
opinion.
great. It was still great.
But
Don't get me
anyways,
wrong.
anyways.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is because I think most people were expecting the story to not evolve, to add more characters, or not like we expected to have more interactions along
think
the
it's-
line of the Urgot,
I think yeah.
than like this
I think-
strong character focus that we
right.
got with Cara Dune and the Widow.
Right. The show, the direction he's taken it is kind of like, it's not an anthology, obviously. But it's like how Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek was.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to new planets, new storyline,
There's a
but
little
the
bit of
characters
a-
actually matter.
A loose continuity is
Yes,
what
Right.
we consider it to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we know what the main story is, like with the Mandalorian and with the baby Yoda, but I mean, the next episode we're gonna find out about some more characters.
Right.
He's planet hopping right now.
Now, another big thing that, granted, it's also brought up later. The entire time that he's in this village, and he's interacting with the widow, the child Yoda is playing with the other children. Like, he's acting like a kid. He's being a kid,
Right.
and he's getting along with them really well. And literally, granted, this is the end of the episode. The Mando decides to leave the kid there,
Which he didn't.
He couldn't. He
Yeah.
decides. He literally decides, I'm going to leave him here. I can't give him a good life being on the run.
That was the direction no one would have thought they would have went.
Right. Well, I mean, because the traditional ending for this is that the lone wanderer settles down.
Right.
This is how the cowboy retires.
Right.
Right.
But you can't go that way with this show, obviously.
Yeah, we're on
because
episode
a
4.
bounty hunter shows up and tries to kill the kid,
Yeah, snipe
Right.
the kid.
and as soon as that happens,
Well, it could have went this way if it wasn't for the fact, because all three of them, well, sorry, not all three of them, the two that are aware, because Baby Yoda isn't actually aware, are wondering who's being tracked.
right?
Because it could have been Cara Dune, and it could have been the Mando. And if it was either one of them who the fob was for, they would have just left.
But it was for
Right.
the kid.
It was for the kid, and that overrides it. So
Right.
they didn't get the option to.
They knew it was for the kid.
But so the ATST, by the way, which is just cool because they were jokes.
Yes, like you think of the Battle of Endor, and you think, oh, it got beat by a bunch of Ewoks.
Yeah, rocks
Right.
and logs and
Yeah.
trash.
But then
What
when
these people did was they dug a huge giant
pit and then filled it with water.
Yeah.
But the ATST in this is actually terrifying because, for one, it is two trained professionals, two on foot trained professionals, and then a bunch of villagers fighting a walker that can tear apart legions of soldiers.
Yeah, it
don't
could
have any
easily
weapon.
destroy a Mandalorian.
Yeah, they don't have any weapon capable of puncturing its armor.
Right.
Right.
It is massive.
Right.
It literally stands upwards of like 1 or 2 stories. It's at least like 20 feet tall.
I was going to say 20 to 30 feet.
Yeah.
Easily.
So it immediately has the height advantage. It has the range advantage, which we saw when it approaches the trap and
Yeah.
it stays at the edge of the trap because it can hit anything in the village from where it is. It doesn't
Right.
have to get any closer. They have to actually bait it into coming closer to them. And one of the things that this show does that I really appreciate it is that it brings about a fair amount of respect to the Empire that the original trilogy didn't give the Empire.
Right.
The Empire is functionally a joke. Stormtroopers can't hit anything.
Of course, their excuse has always been that it's because of the Force why
Right.
the bullets meant.
Later on, we give them more credit, but like we always have to go outside of the main continuity of things to turn the Empire into a threat.
Right.
But in this series, we understand that this is the terrifying thing about the Empire, that this ATST is really freaking hard to deal with outside of very specific planning to get it done. And so they're skim farmers, which to people who don't really understand what that is that they make pools where they breed aquatic creatures.
Yeah.
And then they use those aquatic creatures to make alcohol and sell the alcohol.
Right.
Those are those little krill things. Like
Are you
those-
talking about the village or are you talking
The
about
the
villagers.
villagers. Yeah,
Yeah.
the villagers. They that's how they got the money to originally try to pay the Mando. Is that
Right.
remember the harvest was stolen? It was being brewed by the bandits.
And
Yeah.
it's also the reason they wouldn't leave because apparently those ponds have been laid for generations.
Right. And the thing that makes the trap so so elaborate is that these farms are about like somewhere between knee to waist deep.
Right. You
They're
can
not
just, yeah.
stand in them because they're shallow and they're meant to
It
just
looks like a rice field.
Yeah.
they're meant to they're patties functionally.
Yeah.
Meant to breed these little krill or shrimp like creatures. So what they did was they dug a really, really big hole and filled it with water. And anyone who has any like experience with this village, like the raiders who've been raiding it all this
Right.
time, know
Are familiar, yeah.
that this pond isn't deep.
There
Right.
shouldn't be any issue with me
Stepping into it.
Although he still was hesitant.
Well, it's not that. It's the fact that he
Didn't need to ever come any closer.
Yeah.
It
Right.
could fire from where it was.
it's essentially a giant turret. They had to bait it into coming closer, as I said earlier.
Right.
Which is what Cara Dune's character.
Yes.
Which originally, right, was one of those moments where I was wondering, like, okay, is this an SJW moment? Because she is the worst person of the two of them. She's the lesser of the two of them to take that risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Because one person is in Beskar steel armor.
Right.
And you're going to be hiding in waist
But
deep
she
water.
became invested with the village.
Well, not only that, but the reason why, in my opinion, she goes and does so is because she doesn't actually have a plan. She
Right.
just knows something needs to get done. She's desperate. And by the way, that her character is not as smart. I'm sorry. Like,
No,
her
it's
intelligence is low.
No,
Yeah.
it's definitely it's not her
She
dumb
never-
stat,
she
but
never-
it's definitely it's
She
a low
never
stat.
tried to pretend like she was intelligent.
Right. She's all like strength con will. She is not particularly smart. So when the
She
man
might have a little wisdom too.
Yeah. So the Mando looks over to her and is just like, "You have a plan?" She's like, "Yeah, I got a plan." You know what I'm saying? She's like,
Yeah,
She's
kill
cocky.
everything.
She's cocky and
Right,
surefire.
Her,
So she's
her
like-
plan is kill everything.
right. So she looks over. She's like, "All right, man, my partner's counting on me.
Here, let me see your rifle.
Yeah, let me borrow your gun." It just charges. She literally just charges across the battlefield and then
Very soldier-like.
yeah, and then dives into the pond, which gets fired on. She almost gets hit, and then she swims to the edge of the pond where the ground is meeting the lip of the pond.
Yeah.
and is playing hide and seek with the AT-ST.
To try to make it like
lean over, to get because the gun's located underneath where the pilot's sitting.
Yeah.
So in order for the pilot to see its target, it
Yeah.
has to be within a certain view range.
right.
And she realizes that.
Right. So she's baiting it to come closer to the edge of the pool, and eventually it falls into the trap because of that. So, and you're like, okay, well, obviously, if you had told anyone that plan, the Mando should have done it.
Right.
But she didn't tell anyone that plan.
didn't.
It
She
was
just ran ahead.
She just
it was
winged
a
it.
spur of the moment, just really stupid idea. Because the only thing it had to do was back up and then fire continuously into the towards the edge.
and she would have.
She would
would've
eventually have
fried.
gotten
But
got.
granted, these aren't smart. These aren't smart aliens.
Right, which is fine. I mean, they're smart enough to pilot the thing.
Yes.
And they're also smart enough to just realize they didn't have to like rampage into the village.
Yeah.
Which would have immediately fell into the trap. But like that's not a Mary Sue moment. It's actually just her character not being all that intelligent,
Yeah.
Right.
which is perfectly fine because
She took a chance.
As soon as she does end up getting it to step forward, the Mando immediately comes out and it's like lobs a grenade in there and blows it up.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good moment for
Well,
both
no,
of them.
and it's fine because her character is really well developed, and you always kind of knew that she wasn't actually all that smart. Not saying that she's dumb, just that she wasn't the type of character to invest heavily in thinking. For two things that I really caught on to it, because she actually has some tactical acumen. Like that's how she got the drop on the Mando.
Right.
But she has a Rebel Alliance tattoo on her face.
Right.
She had no intention of ever doing anything that wasn't direct.
Right.
You can tell by that type of character because if you put the tattoo on your face, you can't go in disguise.
Nope.
Right? You can't hide out.
Oh.
You can't convince anyone that you're not a rebel. You literally have it tattooed on your face. She's not trying to do anything subtle or reasonably intelligent. She is a direct, upfront. There's a reason why she became a drop trooper. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like
Willpower.
Yeah.
She's not a strategist. She's I'm going to get in there and do it.
She's a soldier. She's
Yeah.
to the core.
right. So
Yeah.
I'm just like
not every soldier is they're most of them are easy to give directions to and don't question things.
right. And so the second thing is that
The ideal soldier.
right, and the second thing is that she actually chose, which is really strange. She chose to hide out here.
Right.
Once she had basically fallen out with both the Rebel Alliance and was still being hunted by the Bounty Hunters Guild because of whatever the hell she had decided to do that screwed that up.
Right.
So she found a really good planet to hide out on, but she didn't give it any thoughts as to how she actually gets out of a situation if they do start tracking her.
Right.
And you realize that because after she gets into the fight with the Mando, she leaves, and her great plan for staying away from people that might be tracking her, she just goes into the woods and just hangs out and goes to sleep against a tree. Not that she isn't aware that there might be somebody out there, because she does a quick draw when the Mando finds her.
Right.
But the Mando just finds her.
Yeah. It probably wasn't very hard for him either.
Right. No.
and I mean, and if it was anybody else, they could have just sniped her.
From long range, she didn't have a great plan
Nope.
as to how to avoid this situation.
Of course, now she'll probably be like the village protector.
Well, no, she left too, didn't she?
Yeah,
she
Did
left.
she? Yes, she did.
Yeah, they both
She-
left.
But
Because
she didn't leave with him.
No.
No. Yeah, they both left. She probably had a ship somewhere, but
Yeah.
she wasn't planning on leaving the planet once the interaction was there. She
Yeah.
just wanted to be away from him in case any trouble he had.
Didn't deal with her.
Right,
But,
so
but
she
it did
wouldn't-
anyways.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? So she went and camped out in the woods. not the brightest character. I'm telling
Yeah,
you.
and probably wasn't even that far from a ship.
Right. So my thing is that like these things prevent her from being a Mary Sue in my opinion because she's not perfect. I could easily see where her character flaws are.
Which is a good thing.
Right.
You don't want a perfect character. You want someone with flaws that gives them more personality.
So I'm not against her character. I don't think that this is the episode that tilts it over into Disney Star Wars because it's very far from Disney Star Wars, thank God. And I really, really enjoyed the episode, especially for
I think this will help Disney realize that
this is what they should be doing.
Should be doing, yeah.
Yeah.
Some people are saying we shouldn't credit
Disney
them so
for
much
this.
because then it'll give them the wrong idea. But another person's like, no, they're like
They still fund it and
no.
hired.
If you don't do it, then they'll try to do something totally opposite of that because that's what they do. They freak out and then they try to do something different.
Right, and they deserve some credit because
Because
they
if
did
it
hire
wasn't-
Filoni
Yeah.
and Favreau.
And if it wasn't for them freaking out about how people reacted to The Last Jedi and Solo,
We wouldn't have it.
we wouldn't
so
have this
tragic.
because they canceled the Boba Fett series and they canceled something else, all because of the Solo movie.
Yeah,
It's tragic because man, Solo movie was.
By the
Solo was
way,
good, at least.
by the way,
it's good.
the
It's, great.
the director of Solo, Ron
a
Howard,
little bit less than Rogue One.
Yeah.
the director that took over
Yeah.
for Solo, Ron Howard, aka Opie from Andy Griffith, his daughter actually Bryce Howard. What did I say? Bryce Howard Dallas. That Bryce Dallas Howard. That's how
Yeah.
you say it. Okay. Anyways, she actually directed this episode.
Yeah,
The chick from Jurassic World, the redhead.
Yeah.
it wasn't a bad episode.
She
It
did a
was-
good
it was-
job.
It was a classic Western.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
it
did a
was
great
solid
job.
episode.
So I mean, I think that I'm still very hyped to see what's going on. We have 4 more chapters to go.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and then they're already working on season 2 right now.
The-
Oh, I didn't tell you about the actor who played the Imperial guy that hired the Mandalorian.
right from the original Bounty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on set when Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau was taking the puppet off the set to reshoot a scene just in case in CG. He goes up to him and says, "You're cowards. If you do this, you're cowards."
Oh, for choosing not to use the puppet.
Yes.
Uh,
He straight out called them out, told them that they were cowards, and they stuck with the puppet
As
through
they
all
should
the
have.
all the filming. And they said the third episode director said that
Deborah Chow, man, love her.
yeah,
She's-
she said that he was so attached to the Baby Yoda. Anytime the puppet was on set, that he would talk to it like it was a real person. And like he would give it like instructions, like advice on what he should do in the next scene, and they said that the grips, the people that hold the mics and stuff like that, they said you could tell they were tightening their grip on the mic. You could tell like everybody like there was this whole new like presence whenever Baby Yoda came in. Like everybody just was so excited whenever he would be on set.
Baby Yoda's just the star.
Yes.
He is the shining light in the Star Wars universe. And little did I know that it would be like that type of character.
Yeah,
Because like we as Star Wars fans have never paid any attention to cutesy characters.
because they normally don't work. Like
Right.
the Ewoks.
The Ewoks doesn't matter.
Porgs are dumb.
Porgs are retarded. What else do we have here?
Jawas are fun, but not like
yeah.
Cutesy.
They're not cutesy. They're actually little gremlins. They actually are functionally just gremlins.
I don't know what's because you don't ever see what they look like.
Yeah, I'm just
outside
saying.
of
But they act like,
Little
from the
gremlins. Yeah.
the idiotic the Gungans.
The Gungans and Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Never sold. And then even like,
Well, he was supposed to be a Darth.
and of course, like B2 and R2 are just
R2D2.
Yeah, R2D2 and the new droid BB-8. Yeah,
Yeah.
BB-8.
BB1. Now that's a different story. That's Jedi Fallen Order. That droid's he's cute.
Yes, but I'm saying
He's
it,
adorable.
It never sold us, right?
Right.
We were never the type to care about how cutesy the droid.
Yes.
was
I
and all
like
that.
R2.
I'm just saying, but it was never the draw point.
You
for
don't
Star
like
Wars.
him because he's cutesy though.
right? Because
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
really capable.
Yes.
but
Capable and he's sassy.
right. But yes, because Star Wars is filled with sassy characters. We're looking at you, Obi-Wan. But,
God, I love
but like that's the first time that thing out of left field is the thing that's carrying Star Wars. It's just out of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm so happy about it. I'm so happy about it. because man, do I love everything that the Mandalorian does here.
Well, they handle Baby Yoda so well. They don't try to put it in your face too much.
No,
They do a little bit of cutesiness with them, and then they kind of put him in the background while Mandalorian does his job.
right, and we get distracted by watching.
Yeah.
You have to watch the episode twice.
Yes. While he's playing with the kids or trying to eat the frog.
Yeah, my favorite part is that, like, originally he's just like, I'll eat this frog. I don't give no shit.
And then all the kids are telling him he's gross.
Ooh, no. And he's just like, okay, I won't eat the frog. It throws it back down, and then just like, it kills me.
Yeah.
It's so adorable.
Whoever is the puppet people, the puppet masters for Baby Yoda deserves a raise.
Oh, yeah, no. The guy who did Yoda was a freaking absolute god. Because,
Of course. Especially during those times.
Yeah, because he was under the floorboards.
Yeah, it was really hard.
And he couldn't hear Luke.
Yeah.
So he had to have all of his stuff precisely timed and scripted to work with Mark Hamill. By the way, Mark Hamill also deserves all the credit in the world because Mark Hamill is above the floorboards and you can't hear Yoda. Right. So they're basically deaf and playing out those scenes on Dagobah.
Yeah.
10 stars.
Both did a great job.
Yeah. 10 stars to both of those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, yeah, man, I have nothing but love for the episode. Everything made sense. Everything fit in well. Yep. There are some weird moments because, man, was she a crack shot. But other than that, I have nothing else to say.
Yep. I can't wait until we get to episode 6 when we finally get to see Bill Burr as a mercenary.
Yep.
I know that's a weird wish. And I love how Jon Favreau keeps getting these comedians to play small roles in these movies, in these episodes. That's really cool.
I mean,
and they're not trying to be comedic.
Yeah.
Like that character I mentioned, the village.
Actors.
Yeah, he was acting as a character. He wasn't trying to be a comedic bit.
Yeah. I love the villagers, by the way.
He seemed like he was the village idiot, though.
He probably... No, they were. Because remember, they had froze up during the battle.
Yeah.
They were behind the barricade.
I mean, they were the village idiots, but they weren't like over the top like Jar Jar Binks.
No. She like the village leader had to literally turn around and was like, go!
Yeah.
Actually charge
But
out.
it wasn't over the top at the very least.
Yeah, and they weren't cowardly. They actually weren't cowardly. They had just gotten so caught up in the battle that they froze.
Like, you can be a comedic character but not be over the top in the Star Wars universe.
You don't have to Jar Jar it.
No.
I swear to God.
That was the problem. It was George Lucas's fault.
Amongst other things. Look, George Lucas had an issue with how he wanted his characters to appear and dialogue. Those are the two things that really always hampered George Lucas.
Yeah. Anyways, we all really loved The Mandalorian. I can't wait for another solid episode this coming week with episode 5. That's what I expect. After those 4 episodes, I expect it to be solid throughout the whole season.
No, and then 7 and 8 when Cara Dune reappears, so excited.
Yes, I can't wait. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. Most of all, we appreciate you allowing us to get to the root of our geek culture with you. Thanks, guys.